This episode of Tales from the Lot is sponsored by ShakedownT-shirts.com with unique lot-style T-shirts, license plate frames, coffee mugs, and all sorts of things for Grateful Dead, Fish, Zappa, Panic, and more. ShakedownT-shirts.com, where all U.S. orders over $35 ship free. And just for Tales from the Lot listeners, use the code LOT20 for 20% off of any order. That's LOT20. Tales from the Lot, episode 17. My guest, Michael Leube, coming to you from Budapest, Hungary. He's here to talk 52789, the AIDS benefit, some Stella Blue heartbreak, and why Billie Jean is the greatest pop song ever. Here we go.
Hi, welcome to Tales from the Lot. I'm Will. My guest today is Michael Leube. This is my first international version. He's coming to us from Budapest, lives in Spain, been all over the place. Hi, Michael. How you doing?
How's it going? I'm glad to be on the show. This is cool.
Yeah, I'm very glad to have you on here, too. We're going to talk about his first show, which was the AIDS benefit show in 52789 and a bunch of other things. But, Budapest, okay, what are you doing in Budapest? I thought that's a cool place to be.
So I'm a teacher. I teach anthropology. And as of late, like the last 10 years, I've been teaching anthropology to design students.
Fantastic.
Basically, I'm the party pooper, the one that slams on the brakes so all this BS isn't released on the market. Yeah. So I live in Madrid. I'm originally Austrian. I live in Madrid, and I grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area, and so that was my exposure to the Grateful Dead. And right now I'm out in Budapest teaching for a week and a half at this school here.
Gotcha. So growing up, what music were you listening to? Before you got to the Bay Area, or when you got there? What were you into as a child?
Right. So my musical journey. So I always loved music. It always touched me very, very hard. And as a teenager, so I moved to the Bay Area when I was 12. So that would be in 83. We moved there, and so I was in the famous Palo Alto. It's kind of funny, but this is before all the high tech, before it was even Silicon Valley, right?
Right. Yeah.
So I was just a teenager. I was just going to junior high school there and high school and so on. And so I was listening to the basics, like Michael Jackson. That was like my teenage staple diet. I still think Thriller is an incredible album, actually.
I just listened to that yesterday, actually. In 83, you really could not avoid Michael Jackson. It's just how it was.
Right, it was quality.
Commercials and everything else. He was just everywhere.
Like when I have these sorts of nerdy, no offense, but these nerdy music conversations, I always say I think the best pop song ever written is Billie Jean. I love that song. The Billie Jean is incredible, I think.
The beat, the bass line, just the bass line, how the words flow. Yeah, it's all so good.
And when that shuffling beat comes in and it just drives and it grooves and there's not that much going on. It's like sparse. It's cool.
Yeah.
But
great video too.
Yeah, for sure. And the moonwalk.
Yeah.
But so from then, so I have my cousin is a year older than me. He's living in Austria, and we've always been in like musical dialogues and conversations. And so he really gave me that big step. He recorded on some, cassettes, Dolby cassettes, the 90-minute ones that had pretty good sound actually. And so he would I would be there in the summer in Austria, and then as a kind of gift, he would give me a few tapes, right? And I remember the first couple were Pink Floyd, Animals on one side, which blew me away. I think that was my introduction to Pink Floyd, which is an underrated album, I think. I think it's an amazing
Floyd album.
It's an amazing album. It's so old. It's crazy. And on the other side, I can't remember exactly, but some Jethro Tull. I got really into Jethro Tull. Like real geek wise, I saw them like 6 times. I met Ian Anderson once, got his signature and shit like this. It was like a an asexual groupie is like what I'd like to call it.
Right.
Yeah, I just wanted to meet these people. And then, blues. I got into John Lee Hooker and B.B. King, this kind of stuff. Gary Moore, I remember listening to that. In terms of hard music, my introductions were Deep Purple and Black Sabbath and this kind of stuff. Rainbow. I like Rainbow a lot. The Richie Blackmore stuff. So
Did Sammy Hagar
really,
sing in that? Did Sammy
what's
Hagar
that?
sing in that? Did Sammy Hagar sing in that band, Rainbow?
He might have for one of the revivals or something, but not originally. That it was Ronnie. It was Ronnie James Dio. It was Dio.
Right. That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, that kind of spooky mystic stuff, and then Led Zeppelin. Obviously, I think my first one was Physical Graffiti. Actually, not a strange sort of entrance. And so my friends were really into. So now we're talking high school. I graduated in '89. So, 87, 88 is when we really listened to what I consider cool music, right? And they were really into some of the stuff that was super popular, like U2, the Rattle and Hum thing, and Joshua Tree. I think those are good albums, but back then I was almost like rebelling it because everyone was listening to it. So I was like, no, I'm into Pink Floyd and Jethro Tull,
I'm with you on the U2 thing, but when Rattle and Hum came out, there was something about that album that I did like, and that's like I could. It's
an alt country album. It's Irish guys doing an alt country album, and it works. Yeah. I think it's good. Yeah. And they were into Peter Gabriel that I never got into. The whole Sledgehammer thing, and I hate that song actually. But and so I'll get to when I was exposed to the Dead in a second. But I was my first concert. My very first rock concert was actually Roger Waters. In Oakland. It was for the Radio Chaos. I still think his solo albums are underrated. I think there's some really good stuff. Even the last one, I really quite like, actually. So that was my first concert. My let's see, my introduction to the Grateful Dead, I actually searched through my memories, right? Because this kind of stuff gets mixed up, right?
It does. Yeah.
So I remember when my very first time the very first time they came on the radar, right? When there was like this very strong signal that hit me. And it wasn't even music. I remember in junior high school, I guess 7th grade, this guy, Rahim is his name. I stayed in touch with him a little bit. He wore this bright red, orange, yellow, psychedelic Grateful Dead art t-shirt. The iconic, I don't know if it was like the floating eyeball thingy or that surfer. I love that one, the Californian surfer. I've been looking to get that on a t-shirt because I love that art. Do you know which one I'm talking about?
I do. I've seen it. It's like the
like
wave
this dude. Yeah, he's catching a tube, right? And it says Grateful Dead above. So that was like an impact. I was like, what is this? And I read Grateful Dead, and it looked kind of heavy. And ironic, I think the Grateful Dead are heavy. Not in the sense, obviously, of speed or of heavy guitar. Not in that sense. But they hit heavy. It's like it can get pretty dark.
The emotional weight of it.
It hits. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. And there's a little YouTube clip of Ryan Adams where he plays an acoustic version of what is it, China Doll or no, Wharf Rat. And he said that, and I agree fully with him. He says that when he's in a kind of a strange place, bad, mental state, he listens to heavy music like metal and the Grateful Dead, and that really resonated with me. But so that was the first sort of there's that universe. My first introduction to them was a mixtape a friend of mine gave me, classic. This must have been 10th grade or something.
Mhm.
And she put on there, a lot of the Europe 72 stuff. And some of the studio albums, and she's just packed one of these 90-minute tapes with the Dead, and that tape I had running so often.
Mhm.
One time my car was broken into, and that was the first thing I thought about. I was like, yeah, I love that thing. And
That's interesting because
yeah, so
most people, it seems like most people end up with like a whole, like a friend will give them a show to listen to, and 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 a lot of times their first opinion is, well, it's okay, and then they go and then they get it and it's all good. But the mixtape might be the way to go to get
maybe,
people
yeah.
into, because
See, it's I totally know what you're saying. I always suffer when I try to turn on someone to the Grateful Dead. It's like the worst for everyone. Like I've stopped trying, honestly, because what do you play? Like someone like you that obviously knows what he's talking about. You know, I could find some tracks that you would love right now, and you would find some tracks that I would love that I've never heard. But with a virgin, so to speak, who's someone who's has no idea, it's like, I don't know. I might go with, I don't know, like I wouldn't even, it's not the studio really, but they want to hear studio. You know what I mean? They want to hear clean.
I would say Without a Net would be a decent start.
Yeah, it's a pretty good intro. Except I think
it's sort of a mixtape, sort of.
I agree. The Without Net is beautiful. The recording is super nice. Yeah. I am actually not a huge fan of Wynton Marsalis and his sax lines or clarinet lines. Okay. I think it's too many notes. It's like the Dead are already pretty dense, But that's just personal, flavor. Let's see, where were we? Right. So that tape. Then I ended up getting myself a couple albums. It was right when CDs were hitting, and so those were some of my first CD purchases. Actually, I got those two that recorded in '81, I think it was, Reckoning and Dead Set.
Yeah.
And both so great. You got the acoustic part of that band, and then the electric one, and that one did a lot to my head, like. Yeah. So by the way, as we speak, for me, the Grateful Dead are like flashes. It's like I can't even talk about an entire show, to be totally honest. For me, the Grateful Dead is all about these moments. And I even go as far as, this is going to sound super blasphemous on your podcast, but you and your listeners will actually know what I'm talking about, I think. When I tell my friends about my fascination with the Grateful Dead, because I listen to them like close to a daily base still, like 30 years later. It's almost medicine. It just calms me down. It puts me in the right place. And I still discover, it's totally a big part of me. And I still discover things like getting ready for this show. I was listening just to get warmed up. I was listening to some of the stuff that I think I went to in 80 end of 89 and 90 in Shoreline. These, I don't even know exactly which shows it was. But yeah, that stuff hit me really deep. I got off the track. So what I tell my friends about the fascination, and here's the blasphemous part. I think the Grateful Dead suck for about 80% of the time. I go that high. But the 20%, when they lock up, is pure magic. There's no other band that even comes close to that. So we can now argue, okay, 80 is pretty rough. How about 50 or whatever? But what I'm saying is they do lose it at points. And that's what I love about this band. It's like an honest, good conversation. Every good conversation has these moments when it's like, I think I'm gonna get another beer, this kind of moment. Right. But then all of a sudden, it's like, and they hit these passages, these spaces, and it's so brave. That's another thing my friends don't get. They're like, dude, this is the opposite of brave. These guys are wearing sweatsuits and they're just noodling. I'm like, no, you don't get it. These guys, went out there without a set list and maybe vague ideas of what they're going to play in the first set and second set and just fucking went for it and failed sometimes. They failed sometimes.
And they were high as a motherfucker.
And they were high as motherfuckers, exactly. So it's also about the right dosage, like too sober or too high or whatever, right? Yeah. So for me, it's finding these moments when they lock up, but you can't just fast forward to the locking up. It's the same with the conversation, right? You need to have that. You need it takes a little bit of work to get into some of their grooves, and then you wait for that crescendo or that locking up or those really quiet moments or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So so that
didn't
was
make it easy on themselves either. I mean, they're trying to play songs like Terrapin, and that there's a lot going on in a lot of these
complex songs, for sure.
They didn't make it easy on themselves a lot of times.
Totally. I play the guitar a little bit, and the Grateful Dead is not actually easy to play, in my opinion. I'm not very talented either. And I guess you could play it straight, like just the way the chords say, but they didn't play it straight. They had this swing that is kind of that Jerry, that super relaxed thing. And when you watch his fingers, they're like, everything is a tremolo. Like everything is, he's like, is so warm. At that tone, I could recognize in 2 notes. You give me 2 definitely. Jerry Garcia notes of some random solo. Garcia.
Gotcha. Yeah.
There's a few guitar players like that. I think I can do that with B.B. King. I think I can do that with Gilmore.
Billy Gibbons.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's one. You hear that, you're like, oh, that's Billy Gibbons.
Yeah. That shuffle, that thing. Yeah. Yeah. So we're still. So this is just me exploring and opening lots of headspace here. I would listen to the stuff with headphones. My whole family would go to sleep, and I would just give myself these headphone sessions, and just zoom into these tracks. And I don't know, on Dead Set, the Candyman, when he hits those super high notes, and you're like, wow, it's so beautiful, and I can play that now, and I would have a similar reaction. So with me, I don't know. Am I babbling too much, or is that the whole point?
No, that's the point. This is a space where you can nerd out on everything music and Grateful Dead. I love it, and it's okay.
I love it. That I was totally looking forward. Totally looking forward. It's like therapeutic. Totally. Yeah. So we're not even at a point yet in my biography where I see them. So this is all just me finding this headspace, lots of road trip music. Like I would drive in order to listen to the Dead. I know it's not very sustainable.
But I would go and did the same thing.
Right. Yeah. You just kind of go outside of town, safe road, and start driving.
I would have a kazoo and be playing along while I was doing it.
That's so hilarious. I did the same thing with a harmonica. I was really into the blues traveler as well. And so I would be driving, going, not really well, but I was just sort of jamming along. Totally. Music is super, super important to me. And it was never that the Dead it's not everything I listen to, right? There's a lot of other stuff. And it's kind of like the test of time. Like there's some albums that I liked back then that didn't age well. My first vinyl record that I bought before the CD was Yes, the one with the numbers 90 signals or whatever. Album. It was like it was like when they came back after a hiatus or something. So that one I can't really listen to. I
don't like Yes all that much. Like,
do you like Yes? No.
No. Roundabout's okay, but Owner of a Lonely Heart, I was like 10 years old, and that song kind of grabbed me. And so later on, I got the album, and now I'll still listen to that album, but I skip over the world. I think some of it's decent, like Changes. I think it's kind of, I mean, but you can't look at it as like the same.
No, for sure. And, like I'm saying, everyone gets hit by these sound bites in a different moment with a different emotional state.
Yeah.
So I was I went to see a bunch of shows, and I still hadn't seen the Dead yet. I went to see a lot of reggae music. I love reggae music. I love ska. So ska punk divide, I always went towards the ska. Even the fast stuff like Let's Go Bowling and the two-tone stuff like the Specials and Madness.
I know about the Specials, but I gotta admit my ska knowledge is lacking.
Okay, no problem.
I'm on the punk side of those, but yeah, that's ska is just something that I just haven't listened to a whole lot of, and never even thought about that. I should probably start.
Yeah, no, it's like sped up reggae. I mean, it was old school ska, like the Scatolites and this sort of these guys over in Jamaica doing Motown, but with their skank, and that's lovely. I love that stuff. But then later it got sped up, and that annoys some people. It's like, you know,
yeah.
It's almost polka, you know. But then the Clash, I love that. To me, is punk and ska coming together. Yeah. But I was more ska and more metal. The punk thing I didn't totally get. I never totally got punk, to tell you the truth. I like some Rollins Band and some Black Flag and some of this stuff. But like the Sex Pistols and stuff, I don't know. Even the Ramones, I find them overrated. I don't know.
But you growing up in the 80s in the San Francisco Bay Area, probably heard of the Dead Kennedys while you were around there.
Sure. There's this Steely with the Dead Kennedys inside of the skull. There's some kind of relationship there with the name or something I read at some point. Something like the Dead Kennedys like the Grateful Dead or something like that. There's some...
I would be surprised, but maybe.
Yeah, whatever.
Those guys just hate everything. I felt like just to be those guys that hated everything, you know, to get popular.
Right. There's an interesting punk band also that I like that mixed the reggae and the punk, the Bad Brains. That's interesting.
I love the Bad Brains. Yes.
All right. Yes. Right on. Yeah, that's a crazy band because they don't.
They're so good at both.
They're so good at both. They're playing this grindcore thing, and then there's like, and then beautiful roots reggae. You know, what
so good at both of them. It's amazing.
They are.
They're like the best reggae band right now and the best punk band at the same time.
Yeah. In terms of reggae, I think right now what I listen to a lot is Groundation. They're actually out of California. That's a really solid reggae band if you're into it. But anyways, back to the 80s. So I was sort of rebelling against all the pop that was coming out. It was almost like a stance somehow. And then of course grunge hit, and that's where my friends met again, right? So I had this group of high school buddies that we're still in really good close contact, actually, or relatively close contact because I live in Europe. But that united us. So everyone agreed on Pearl Jam. Everyone agreed on Nirvana, Soundgarden, the Stone Temple Pilots, this kind of stuff. I was really into the Smashing Pumpkins as well, which is technically not grunge, or is it? I don't care. That I think is an amazing album, amazing music. So I was getting into all of that. And then there's two more really important influences for me. So my parents both like music a lot as well. And my dad is very specialized with one type of jazz. Okay. So he likes cool jazz and bebop. So like Miles Davis is the end of what he listens to, not the beginning. He
more
doesn't
like
even
Charlie
go to
Parker.
Ornette Coleman or the crazy free jazz or fusion stuff.
He's more like Charlie Parker era and
Absolutely.
Right.
Oscar
Yeah.
Peterson, Stan Getz, Dave Brubeck, that kind of stuff.
Hey there, are you tired of the same old grocery store grind? The battle for the last ripe avocado, the cart traffic jams that rival the Autobahn, and the hunt for the mysterious organic section that's more elusive than a unicorn? Ah yes, the joys of grocery shopping in the modern world. Who wouldn't want to experience that every week? Well, hold on to your dreadlocks because I have a cosmic revelation for you. Presenting Grateful Groceries, the grocery delivery service that's here to rescue you from the tedium and send you on a culinary full tour through the cosmos. Imagine a world where the produce section is an enchanted forest, where the avocados jump into your cart and the almond milk flows like a psychedelic liquid river. That's right, folks. Grateful Groceries delivers only the freshest, most locally sourced, organic treasures, all packaged in tie-dye wrappers that are cooler than a cucumber in a snowstorm.
Oh, wow!
It's not just a delivery service. It's a culinary carnival, an edible adventure, a gastronomic gobble fest. Say goodbye to cart chaos and farewell to checkout lines that seem to stretch to infinity and beyond. And say hello to Grateful Groceries.
Grateful Groceries, oh so fine. Organic food, I'm on cloud nine. Tie-dye bags, it's all online. You can shop with a smile all the time.
Grateful Groceries, because life is too short to take grocery shopping seriously.
Yeah, so he would give me an album for every birthday and every Christmas kind of thing. And so now I have a kick-ass CD collection of that type of jazz. Like really good albums. Because it added up over the years, right? He still gives me, my dad's still alive and he still gives me jazz records. So there's that. Huge influence on me. I remember one time in the Bay Area driving with my dad, just running errands or something. And so this must have been 88 or something. Another one of these music flashes. He played me Take 5, right? The famous Dave Brubeck. And I was listening to that piano thing, that motif that continues on and on and on and on. And it was kind of cramping my style. I was like, oh, this thing is like a loop. It's like, and I was telling my dad, Dad, this is not very good. It keeps repeating. And he looked at me, he's like, you're listening to the wrong thing. You got to listen to the drummer. You got to listen to the drummer. And then I did. I went below, I went to the drummer. Mm-hmm. And he's doing all of these crazy syncopated little fills and shit. And I got it. I was like, wow, okay, let's play this again from the beginning, you know? And then from my mother's side, it's all classical, right? And so she didn't have this tradition of giving me records, but she played a lot of classical music at home. And I was always drawn to the heavy, to the emotional stuff. You know, Beethoven, Bach. Like I always say, if Bach is alive now, he would be in a Scandinavian death metal band.
yeah, likely playing a giant organ.
Like the fugue or whatever, the one that's on all the best of classical CDs. Mm-hmm. It's got a metal vibe, but so yeah, I was into really the stuff, but it would also mess with my head sometimes. It would get me down and stuff. It affected me really strongly. Classical music.
So, how did you end up at that first show in '89?
Right.
Did you hear about it on the radio? I'm going to go grab some tickets. Or
it was back then. It was Ticketmaster. It was just going to Tower Records, standing in line, and getting a ticket. And everyone was talking about the Dead. This is when the Touch of Grey thing was right there, right?
Right.
That song hit whatever in '88 or '89, I forget, and I didn't even. I saw that famous MTV clip a bunch of times, of course. And And there were some kids in high school that all of a sudden were wearing the tie-dyed socks and the Birkenstocks and had that whole thing going.
Mhm.
And I wasn't part of that. Like, I always sort of resist going full into cliques. I always liked the contrast. And I remember doing some pretty infantile things like wearing Doc Marten boots, sending that signal, but then with the reggae laces to send that opposite signal. That was like, it was super nerdy and infantile. But
You're just making a statement, man. You're making a statement.
I was
and that's
making
awesome.
a little bit of a statement, and I would go to the Dead shows in my Doc Marten boots, and I didn't want to be full on Deadhead, even though I love the Grateful Dead. But so I bought tickets. It was that AIDS benefit, 87, so I must have been 10th grade, I guess in May, and I just went with this guy, actually from Barcelona. Now that I think of it, another one of these Spanish connections. There's a whole bunch of little Spanish connections that we might get to. Andreu was his name, and it was his first time too. I turned him onto it a little bit, just showing him some tapes and stuff. And we went to this show, and it was kind of a little bit weird, to tell you the truth. Like, there was a huge lineup that the strangest concert bill you can think of. So you got Joe Satriani and Creedence Clearwater and Tracy Chapman, the Grateful Dead. I think I wrote this down here somewhere. Los Lobo, Tower of Power, which is awesome. All on the same bill. And for me, that was cool. I remember Satriani, the Surfing with the Alien, that album I loved. And to see that was super cool. And Tower of Power, that horn section is awesome.
For sure.
But then the show, I won't lie to you. It wasn't that it blew me away. I was like, okay, these guys are super tight. I was happy to see some of the music I knew, but there was also a whole bunch of songs in their list that I have never heard before.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was just listening I was waiting for the Fire on the Mountain, you know, the classics that you can sing along with. There was a couple of songs that I have like direct memories of. Fire on the Mountain was one. I think they played it without the Scarlet Begonias,
Right.
so it was just that. And those tend to be a little bit tighter somehow.
Leading up to this, when you'd mentioned the show and I saw that, I was like, oh, I'm going to listen to that specifically because I want to hear how the transition to that went. And it really wasn't a transition. It was just like,
right. Yeah.
throwing a bucket
Yeah. I
in
always
and
go to the
listening to
transition as
the
well. Yeah. I'm going to have a malted beverage here,
nice.
a beer.
It's what is it? 11 in the morning here. I'm still having a little cup of coffee here.
Right. Yeah. Just so the users know, for me it's 7 in the evening. So, or 8 or whatever. Yeah. So, so that, and then, I think they closed with Broke Down Palace, which I love. What a beautiful song.
Oh,
And I remember that being very strong, I was pretty far back. So I didn't get the full blast, I feel like, and it was in a massive place, whatever what used to be the Raiders. I think the Oakland Coliseum, I think it was, or was it San Francisco?
Yeah.
I can't remember.
Yeah, the Coliseum.
Okay. So that wasn't necessarily the most important of my Grateful Dead moments. Another one, I honestly, I wanted to get all this out, so I have some notes here. Cheat sheet. So a year later, it was April 30th, 88, at the Frost. So this is on Stanford campus. This is like 10 minutes from my house. And I didn't have a ticket, but that was the first time I experienced the lot, the Shakedown Street, the parking lot, because at the stadium, that thing was a little commercial, right? There wasn't that scene going on. It was, you got your ticket, you go in, you see the show, you leave, you know?
Yeah.
Sorry, what were you saying?
Just not your typical Dead show.
No, it was absolutely not. Exactly. So, that one, I was on the parking lot and only on the parking lot. I didn't get into this one, but I remember seeing these crazy people. Some of it was a little unsettling, I gotta admit. Like, I'm not one to glorify every aspect of the dead either. I think we have to remain critical. That's what a good friendship is all about, personally. And there were some people who were obviously lost, like obviously lost their fucking mind. And that was kind of sad to see. You know, I remember this guy with a little string, and he was pulling this little plastic alligator behind him and talking to it. And I was like, whoa, okay, there's that side too. But I remember the drum circle. I remember really good vibe, obviously. All the vendors. Just super fun party out there. I wasn't even inside. And the music wafted over. You know how the wind can waft it over? And sometimes you hear a little bit more and then a little bit less.
Right.
So I was circling around there in the parking lot in the frost, beautiful Stanford campus. There's all these eucalyptus trees. It's just super mellow California, right? And this one waft of sound comes over, and it was, it makes my hair stand up just thinking of a memory of a waft of sound. That word doesn't even exist. But anyway, and it was Ship of Fools. I don't know where in that song, but that hit so hard.
Right. And the fact that you can give me chills talking about it.
Right. And I got this show. It was actually released. I found this, must have been pirated, but CD. I got a CD of this show. And so I can revisit. That's the beauty of this technology, right? I can revisit these exact moments. It's pretty strange. And you know, I was stone cold sober. I was some high school kid. I was like 17, 18. Just seeing this whole thing. And this Ship of Fools, I was like, okay, this band is serious. Like, there's a lot of emotions here. They're not just playing through their best off here. This is different.
Yeah, they're telling the story.
And for me, that was the first time I got the Dead, believe it or not. It wasn't even inside. It was really weird. That was like, okay, I got it. Okay, these guys go deep, and they try every time, and sometimes they fail, but when they nail it, wow, you know. And there's no band that comes even close to that, in my opinion. Then I saw a bunch of the shows at Shoreline, which is did you ever make it out there to Shoreline?
No, I've never seen a show at Shoreline.
From the other podcast,
I grew up on the East Coast, so most everything I saw was on the East Coast, and now I live in Denver, so I get a lot of shows here in the Colorado area. So I don't.
Oh yeah.
I go to Vegas occasionally to see a show.
Okay.
For the most part, everybody comes through either Red Rocks or somewhere here. So
oh right. Nice. So you're talking about Dead and Company and these offshoot bands or what? Yeah.
They play at. They've been playing at the football stadium for University of Colorado football stadium, Folsom Field, the last few years, and then Fish comes out here for 4 nights for Dicks every year, and then every other band, like I can see bands, like Primus and stuff like that, just like down Colfax, like 2 miles from my house at a local.
Oh, you just triggered my head for a concert. When you compare gigs, a killer concert I saw right around this time. I think it was maybe 90, San Francisco. Let's see if I get the order right. Yeah, I think it was Primus, Jane's Addiction, and the Pixies. I mean,
so good. So good. I saw Jane's Addiction one time, and I'm still a big fan. Like, so good.
Yeah.
Wild.
Yeah, they are. They're crazy, and they have their own style. Also, he's one of those recognizable bands. Also,
Definitely.
And then my trump card. Now I'm off the subject again with the with the Grateful Dead. But my absolute best card would be I went to see The Wall in Berlin, the 1990 the huge show that Waters put on.
Mm-hmm.
I traveled to that one.
Wow.
So that's yeah, that was pretty crazy when he built this gigantic thing on Potsdamer Platz, right in the center of Berlin.
Yeah, just like took it down one brick at a time, right, or something like that.
Yeah. They played behind the wall for half of the show, and he had all these guests. He actually had like the members of the band on there, and Sinead O'Connor, and a few other people, like famous people. But anyways, back.
Anyway.
Yeah, it's on YouTube. It's on YouTube. Yeah. Well, I was one of those heads in there somewhere. So, Shoreline. Apparently, I read online somewhere that they actually built Shoreline for the Dead, and that you can look at it from above, and it looks like a steely, like those sails. They've got these beautiful sails over the audience part, and then it narrows down into where the band stands, and that would be like the mandible or the jaw of the steely. Whatever, I don't know if it's true or not, but that's a great venue because you're out there in the Baylands, so it's off the city, so you don't have that whole city hustle going on. It's peaceful in that sense, and it's a slanted lawn, really good acoustics outside, just super mellow. And so I saw them there a few times. And actually leading up to this talk here, I went to some of the ones I think I went to. I think I went to 1989, September 30th. I think I was at that one. And that was really good. Like they were greased up and really good. Jerry Garcia was, I think it was one of those windows of sobriety that he had.
Yeah, like 87, 86.
Right.
Everything. It had the moments. It may be your 80-20 rule there. But yeah, definitely.
I feel bad about that sentence now. Okay, I bring it down to 50-50 or something. But all of them. Bob Weir is just such an amazing rhythm guitarist, and he was showcasing that with all these weird chords and inverted chords. I don't even know. I'm not a theory guy when it comes to music. I know when it hits, Yeah. But you can just see him all over the fretboard.
He made some strides definitely in that time in his playing, I felt like.
Right. Yeah. Right.
And he was really trying hard on the slide. He was trying hard. We'll give him that.
He was trying. Emphasis on trying. Yeah, I don't. That I'm not a fan of. And then his singing. I like when he sings Dylan songs. I think he does those quite nicely, like Masterpiece and Memphis Blues or whatever that song is called. And I don't like when he does the blues stuff, the Red Rooster, and then this is like. Oh.
I'm not much of a fan, but I do love the Bobby song stuff like "Feel Like a Stranger" and "Estimated Profit."
Oh, "Feel Like a Stranger" is a great song.
So
and Cassidy. Yeah. I mean, Cassidy.
Oh, yeah. Also, "Let It Grow." So many. Good
"Let It Grow" and "Estimated Profit." That's a weird song. That's an amazing hook. Yeah, but when he goes off on the vocal, Jesus. And when they tweaked him, the sound guy was messing with that in that era as well. And then Brent. I mean, Brent, I was a huge fan, and I listened to that era of Dead now. It's probably my favorite, not just because I was there. So it's not just melancholy. I like what Brent brings in with the Hammond organ and the blues vocals. He's got an attitude. He's got a bit of, I don't want to call it punk because it's not punk, but it's like Southern rock almost or something. It's like, Love that, and then Phil Lesh just always. I think he's the most steady of all of those musicians. Actually, it's like there's no.
I would agree with that.
He doesn't make mistakes. It just doesn't.
I would agree with that.
And the drummers, So it was. I think it was a really good period. Yeah. Well, that's what I said earlier with that weird comment. Like, I think we gotta remain honest. There was some. It's not all blindingly brilliant, but that's the beauty of it somehow. Like you go to see a Pink Floyd concert, and they're standing at the exact spot on stage so that a laser hits them at the right angle when they hit a note or something.
Right.
And it comes a point when you're like, okay, I can just listen to this with my headphones lying on the couch. It's the exact same thing.
Yeah.
With the Dead, it wasn't. It was an adventure. It was a voyage in your head and in this space.
And the lights were the same way. That the lights aren't pre-programmed. They're
exactly.
doing it as they go in the moment. So that was all part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good point that I haven't thought about enough. I guess I know that the sound engineers in real time were almost DJing the players. That sounds kind of weird, but right, they were opening some channels, closing some others, I think. So yeah, it all happened in real time, absolutely. And yeah, they just went on these voyages, and so in those years, Shoreline, I saw some really nice stuff out there, and it's really close to home. So that was like, logistics wise, that was a pretty easy thing to do. And then I saw them in Oakland a bunch of times in the Coliseum. And there was another one of these flashes. This one, super bittersweet. It's kind of a crazy story. This one was actually released as Dick's Pick Volume 27. So that was December 16, 1992. Vince Welnick is on it at this point. I think they were still decent. I was starting to lose a little bit of interest. I think my last one was 93. I didn't see anything in 94, 95. Regret it, because there were some amazing stuff in those periods as well.
Right.
But I was somewhere else music wise for those years. I
understand that totally. 94 is when I saw the most. Just that's when I was kind of
right. You just came a little bit after me, a little bit later. Yeah.
Through the Vince years, and I definitely missed out on Brent, but listened to a ton. That's probably what I go to first for most of the time. Is somewhere in the mid to late 80s.
So at that show, I gotta embellish this one because it's really a bittersweet thing. It was at the Oakland Coliseum. At this point, I was studying in Berkeley. And I was living over there. I was living close to Oakland, between Berkeley and Oakland there, and got to the show a little bit late. Okay, so I took the BART. It's this, it's this public transportation in the Bay Area. Took that to the show. I was a little bit late, so I knew I had a ticket, but I knew I was coming in the middle of the first set or something. Or I guess I would have to check that out because I know exactly when I came in. And here's the story. I was with this girl back then. It was my first real relationship. Like, this was a 2.5-year relationship. It was very, very intense relationship. But at this point, it was sort of crumbling. At this point, it was coming apart a little bit. And she was at this show. We wanted to see this together. We got the ticket together. She went there earlier with some other friends from UC Berkeley, right? And I come later, and I come in, and this is before the cell phones. And she just said, okay, look, when you come in, I'll be on the front, on the right side, this sort of vague description, right? And so I was searching through the crowd, and Stella Blue comes on. And Stella Blue is such a sad song. It's such a strange, beautiful song, I think. It feels like a blues song, but it's not really. It's a ballad. It's got something country. You know what I'm saying, right?
Yeah, and it's got that silence moment where he's like,
It's got that silent moment.
and it just hangs
Absolutely.
there.
Absolutely. Where they leave it, let it hang. And
Yeah.
but it was actually, like I said, a bittersweet moment because when I found them, she was in the arms of some other dude. Like some other dude was like embracing her from behind, and I caught them red-handed. Right? They weren't making out, but they were obviously not just standing next to each other in a concert. It was more.
Obviously weren't strangers. They weren't feeling like
They
a
were
stranger.
strangers, exactly. And it was with that song, and it was just so horrible. And it just sent me on such a negative downward spiral. So that show, I can't even say that was anything great for me. But the interesting thing is that was released. So Dick's Pigs Volume 27. You can check it out at some point if you want. And that Stella Blue is actually probably my favorite one. And so it's really weird. Yeah, no problem. It is a funny story because I catch my girlfriend cheating on me with this cheese ball. That's another thing. It's this guy that's been hovering around her. This kind of guy. That's saying little cheesy things, and she found it funny. And this guy. So jealousy, like serious jealousy from my part. And this song, and then when you listen to it now, it's like, I think one of the very best Stella versions. When he goes that little silence and he says Stella Blue, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when they go from that, I think it's an A to an E or the other way around. Phil Lesh has this thick honey bass line. It's like dripping honey. I don't know how else to describe this right now. And it almost sounds like a cello because he's sliding on the strings, I think. And yeah, check that out. That's one of my absolute most poignant moments. And then I was there in this weird thing. And somehow, this is going to sound super esoteric now, okay? Super hippie dippy. But if you think about it, if that is a live recording of that song, that vibe of mine is somehow in there.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? It's a weird thought. But somehow, if you're going to speak of vibrations or energy or whatever, there was this little kid in there. Because at this point I was, 21 or something. And just having a hard time. I think I was crying at the moment and stuff. And the song did not help. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, there's this bundle of energy happening right there.
Yeah, totally. Wow, I got all emotional just talking about a moment that happened in 1992. That's freaking 31 years ago. That's crazy. So let's see what else is on my list here. Okay, so there's some really odd moments as you were like announcing me or introducing me here and on this podcast. You're saying that I've been all over, and it's true. I have been traveling a lot and living in different places, Austria, California, and Spain. Spain for the last 20 years, and there's some weird connections to the dead in Spain. So they're not well known, like at all. Like it's this little ritual. Spanish love music. There's great live music. There's great party culture. The Spanish really get into it, and it's never sloppy. It's like really stylish. I love that part of Spain. And we always have music conversations, these sorts of nerdy things. And not very often people are aware of the Grateful Dead. Like,
did they play there? I don't remember.
Okay, so that's what I was leading up to. This was a segue.
Gotcha.
They played one time there, and I researched this also. This was in October 19th, 1981. So it was one of those Europe tours, and they played in Barcelona, and so that's obviously way before me. So I didn't see this, not even close. But they played in Spain one time, and Garcia, as you know, is half Spanish, or was half Spanish,
Right.
and his dad was a jazz musician. I don't know which instrument, but he was a jazz musician up from Galicia. So this is in the north of Spain. Beautiful country. I don't know how to pick. Have you been to Ireland or something like this? Or
No, I haven't.
no. So picture rolling hills, forest, and then the ocean. So it's on the very, very top of Spain.
Gotcha.
And so there's that connection, and makes you wonder. So he was half Spanish. The guy was half Spanish, genetically speaking. And they played one time, not huge, but I've in 20 years there, I might have seen, I'm not kidding you, I might have seen 2 or 3 steelies on cars. And trust me, I look for steelies on cars.
Yeah. Wow. That's not many.
It's not really, and it's a mystery to me because I think they would get into it. So I've actually hacked. I got this water bottle. It's flat water bottle, and I hacked it. And one of the reasons is I pulled this out, and I'm like, okay, here's the logo. Do you know what this is? And that's the test, and
Yeah.
And then some people do that. They just don't know the right pronunciation, I guess. They would be like, Grateful Dead.
I could go around Denver and drive around 10 minutes right now and see 10 steely faces probably.
For sure. Yeah, I know. Colorado is really big into the Deadeye. Yeah, there's something there.
For sure.
But a moment that I wanted to talk to you about was so in the middle of Spain, right? So picture this, in the middle of Spain, and there's this abandoned village. It's out in the middle of nowhere. It's pretty spooky. It's these houses that use what's it called? Slate? Or what is it? The black stone that's really thin.
For shingles.
Yeah, for shingles, exactly.
Yeah.
And so it's this spooky sort of witchy village right in the middle of Spain. And this is about 15 years ago. And we found out that there's a party there, a kind of an outside rave. And so they had these sound systems out there, these speakers, Jamaican style, dub sound systems, right? And it was kind of a punky feel. There was these punks that lived in these houses. Super cool. And there was a moment in the evening when we were just hooking up our MP3 players, right? So it's right when we all had our little shuffles and our little Apple devices or whatever. And there was this moment when I was like, okay, it's my turn. Can I plug mine in? And I was like, ooh, and they gave it to me. They're like, okay, go for it. They call me Giddy. Giddy is like an endearing way of saying foreigner.
Okay.
Because I'm the Austrian. I'm not and I speak with an accent when I speak in Spanish, strong accent, right? And I wasn't even speaking very well back then. This is 15 years ago. But anyway, so I have my moment, and so the classic Grateful Dead dilemma. What do you put on? These people have never heard. And so I go for the Skull and Roses. The Going Down the Road and Not Fade Away, that or is it the other way around? Not Fade Away, Going Down the Road Feeling Bad. I love that thing. That double thing there as a live recording. And super clean production, and that transition is just so good, I think.
Yeah.
And anyways, there's no real punchline to this story. It's just I selected that one. We turned it up. We had these big speakers in the middle of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just to embellish it. The moon was out, clear night, and it just went. And these guys got into it. When you have that Bo Diddley, that shuffle of Not Fade Away, and right they were, and it was just carrying over this valley, and I was like, okay, so that's the Grateful Dead. And some people, probably there's some people that I turned on with that sound flash. You never know. I've never seen these people again.
Yeah, well, I was surprised you didn't say Shakedown Street, but just for the Dave's ability, but Not Fade Away is probably a better choice
that's
for
true.
that moment.
Shakedown Street is an interesting one as an introductory track because it's got this almost P-funk, this disco thingy going on, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's a walk on the line to me. Like that could turn people off because it's got a bit of a cheese factor in my opinion.
That's true.
I love that. I love that riff. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
but
you're right. No, for somebody who doesn't know, they might not get it.
They might not get it. Another one I was contemplating was Estimated. But then there's such variants, like which version. Some of them are a little faster than others and stuff. But I love that's a great riff too, signature just riff.
I agree.
So that was another one of those moments, and then there have been little ones, like with the Steely, like I've bumped into people in airports that have the little logo or the dancing bears or whatever. And, strangers stop strangers just to shake their hands kind of thing.
Yeah.
I've had little moments like that. There was one so I haven't been in Spain in these 20 years. I wasn't there continuously. We moved the whole operation. I got 2 daughters. So we're 4, my wife and 2 daughters. We moved the whole thing back to Austria for 5 years. And to this city that's pretty parochial, it's pretty dead. Salzburg, I mean, it's super famous. It's where Mozart is from, but they kind of got stuck in the Baroque. Honestly, there's like no scene. Yeah, they just stayed there. Yeah, no scene. But there's one concert venue that I went to a lot called Rock House, and that's symptomatic of my relationship with Salzburg. I hung out at this fucked up rock venue. That was my favorite, and I saw a bunch of shows at that place. Some of them real good. But Mo came. So Mo is kind of a jam band. You know them, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And I wasn't even aware of them. I just saw on the webpage that this band is coming, and then I looked at it and they said jam band. I was like, okay, I'm going, obviously. Yeah. That one is actually on YouTube. It's like 2014 in Salzburg, Austria, Mo. I was able to find it, and anyway, so I go in there, and all of a sudden, like I get there before the show, we're hanging out at the bar, having some beer, and there's all these guys with these Grateful Dead t-shirts and Fish t-shirts and whatever t-shirts, and I was so moved, and like I was so starved of this sort of conversation that I just went and bought this total stranger a massive beer. In Austria they have these big ones, like it's like half a liter, and I just walked up to him and said, "Here you go, because you're wearing that T-shirt."
and then talked until the show started, right?
Yeah, exactly. The banter, and they put on a great show. You can. I don't know if you can hear me, but at some point it was a relatively small venue and I'm yelling, "Franklin's Tower!" Because I thought they were kind of in a jam that sounded a little bit like that, and I almost thought they were teasing it. And so I was yelling that. They never played it. But I ended up hanging out with them. Again, the asexual groupie. Like I'm not interested in anything but hanging out. For me, it's the greatest thing on earth. Like when you hang out with really good musicians I love that. I don't know.
Yeah, certainly is.
And I ended up hanging out backstage with them. That partying, and it was actually really, really fun. So that was another one of those moments.
Did you get to ask them if they were teasing the Franklin's Tower?
I probably asked them. I can't remember their response. Actually, I remember we talked about the Dead. There was another band that came through to that venue, and that I was actually going to recommend when on the outro. There's like you talk about stuff. One band that I really have been pretty loyal to. It's a very different vibe, but Woven Hand. Have you heard of them?
No, but I'm writing it down right now.
Yeah, this is weird. This is interesting. So Woven Hand does this southern folklore, alt country, but there's punk in there. It's heavy music. It's pretty hard music actually, but they play on old time banjos and lutes, and so it's got this spooky. And the voice, his name is D Edwards or something like that. He's a real interesting guy. So it's dark. It's dark music.
Yeah. Better than Mumford and Son.
No, it's not Mumford and Son. Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, exactly. Well put. It's like it's the best time to be alive right now. If you're a music lover, you got no excuse. I don't even want to hear any bitching and complaining. You can listen to literally anything that has ever been produced at your fingertip. Like people who say, "Oh,
it can suck." Take a choice.
No, totally." But people who are like, "Oh no, I stopped listening to music because," okay,
yeah.
Yeah. But what was I? I'm just riffing with you. This is fun. Saw Woven Hand, and I hung out after that gig also, and I talked to a musician, and I asked him what he thinks of Friend of the Devil, because I think that's a dark folkloric song. Like, I think that song is gonna go into, like, it's gonna be a traditional, quote unquote. It's that classic of a song that it's sort of like Mary Got a Little Lamb. It's a standard to me. Like, it's not far enough back to call it a true standard, but I think it will be. And the guy answered something like, "Well, that's different type of music," but he absolutely shared my point that is a classic folklore, kind of dark. It's about this weird character, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Running from the law. It's like a lot of Grateful Dead. Like the storytelling, it's actually murder ballads, a lot of it.
Yeah, a lot of it, yeah.
A lot of it is murder ballads. It's like Nick Cave style, but a little bit happier music around it. But yeah, when you listen to Loser, or Deal, or
Me and
Friend
My
of the
Uncle,
Devil,
or
yeah, Wharf Rat, yeah, yeah.
I mean, they do have Dead in their name, though. So.
Right.
They let you know. Right. By the way, there will be death.
There will be some death. Yeah. So yeah, it's they've accompanied me over the years, and like I was saying earlier, I still have these Grateful Dead doses. Like right now, I get my kicks from listening to. I pull out my old CDs. I got a lot of the Dick's Picks and the what came after the Dave's Picks.
Yep.
So those are in my car. I still have a CD player. So driving to work and stuff, I spin those, and then obviously digital. I like this podcast as well. What is his name? The Dead Pod.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
That guy is awesome. Every Friday he releases one set of a show and does his little intro. It seems like a real nice guy. So I've been listening to those, and yeah, out in Europe. So it's not like like you should be super grateful, man. You can go see all these bands whenever you want. It's really there's really not a lot of that. I mean, there's a lot of music in Europe for sure, but the Grateful Dead, I've seen a couple cover bands over in Europe. Actually, I think I just lied. I think I saw one once or so. I can't even remember. It's like, or I've
There's
been
too many of
meaning
them
to.
here.
Yeah, and some of them great. Actually, that's some of the other stuff I wanted to talk to you about. I saw some other thing. I saw the Jerry Garcia band once back in the days. That was 92 or something, which is a good year for the Garcia band, I think.
For sure. Yeah, any of those early 90s ones were really good.
He had one of these late life highs that happens with a lot of artists. I do kind of think that maybe he was feeling like this is limited because he was hitting some really, again, deep and heavy moments.
For sure.
Like The Maker. Wow. The Maker. When he fluffs out those notes, and it's amazing.
Yeah, no doubt. I really love Jerry and JGB. I feel like, I don't know, he was just more free. I don't know if free is the right word, but it was definitely a different side of Jerry. And
it was.
Yeah, really.
It was, and in some ways tighter. Like they were like a, blues rock band to me, or Motowny.
Yeah, really. Yeah, especially with the background vocals and just the song choices that he chose were not only Motowny, but just fit them so well. They were just like made for that band. It felt like when they played them. Even like the Dear Prudence, like the way they did Dear Prudence felt like it was made for that band.
Yeah, true. And the Jimmy Cliff stuff and the Peter Tosh. That's another thing about Jerry Garcia. I mean, what a genius. I mean, he was obviously living what in Spain they call la mala vida, the bad life. He was obviously a very unhealthy individual, like physically speaking. But he was in a bluegrass band. He was in this Motown thing and the Grateful Dead simultaneously.
Yeah.
And then he was cutting tracks with jazz artists and whatever.
And Dave Grissom, they were doing like
the Dave Grissom stuff, the
two of them doing stuff. He was busy,
so,
for sure.
When he messes up a line here or there, a vocal line, like he was working a song catalog of like 500 songs or something. It's amazing.
Yeah, it was amazing. Yeah, truly amazing.
So, Phil Lesh, I saw a few times. He had this. I'm speaking in the past tense because I think it was shut down. Terrapin Crossroads.
Yeah.
Beautiful place. That made me really sad when they closed that down. I think they're reopening though, or something. I heard something.
Maybe. I'm not certain. I never got a chance to go, but a good friend of mine who lives out there said that he stopped in there quite a bit, and it wasn't unusual to see Phil playing or hanging out occasionally up there.
Well,
so that's kind of interesting.
Not just occasionally. He put on a bunch of shows himself. Now he's 82, I think, or something. Like 82?
He's something like that. Well, he still was in the band, I think.
And he still holds the band together. I mean, the stuff is, I would argue, just from seeing it on YouTube, I would argue that some of that stuff is tighter than Dead and Company, in my opinion. But so I saw them up there a couple times, like when I visited my family. My parents still have that house in the Bay Area. All these years later. And so I would drive over the Golden Gate and see some stuff up there. I saw Phil Lesh with Anders Osborne, who I like a lot.
Yeah.
That was nice. I got to meet Phil Lesh one time, again as a asexual groupie. It's not rocket science. It's like not rocket science. You just hang around. You get a beer. So here's the call. It's super easy. Like I should sell this as a strategy, as a technique.
Enlighten us.
It's so easy. You just have to hang around. As soon as the show is over, people are rushing for the doors. You rush to the bar, and you just kind of linger there. And maybe if they can serve you something, still get a beer or something, and just linger. Linger, wait. Sometimes it gets a little weird. You go to the bathroom, you keep lingering. Then the guys with the cables come out and clean up and stuff. You keep lingering. The band members are bound to come down because they're thirsty. And so, yeah, I've met a lot of musicians that way. And I was able to, congratulate them. And they always loved that. And so Phil Lesh was like that. It was a really short conversation. I said, "Hello, I'm Michael. I'm from Austria." And he said, "Oh, I know Austria. I've been to Salzburg once." And I said, "I know. I read your autobiography." That was the dialogue.
Also a very good autobiography.
Yeah.
Searching for the sound, right?
That's a beautiful, that made me cry on a couple of passages. That is when he describes Jerry's death, and he's like, he felt like he got punched in the stomach or something. Yeah, so I met him. I've seen what's his name? Stu Allen in Mars Hotel or something like that. Right. And then David Gans, who looks like you a little bit, speaking of which. He's over in Berkeley in Ashkenaz. He does these dead evenings. And I've seen I saw the Nelson Band from the Riders of the Purple Sage, right? Saw them there once. I saw Further once at Outside Lands. That was good. I thought there was too much sound on there somehow. They had these two backup singers, and they played a Pink Floyd cover. They played Time. That was cool. But I wasn't. Plus, it was bad timing. I was with my wife and huge festival, and her favorite band was playing at the same time. The Strokes. The Strokes were playing at the same time as Further, like it's like a huge field, so they don't interfere. It's that far away.
Yeah.
And I remember we went to the Strokes. It's kind of funny, actually. I was trying to, do you know the expression dance at both weddings? Like try to double bill, try to do both. And so it's like, okay, Isa, my wife's name, Isa. I was like, okay, Isa, let's go over to check out the Strokes. But I wanted to be over with Further, obviously.
Right.
And we go over there and we see like 2 or 3 songs because they have these short, poppy. I like the Strokes. I think they're really good, but they're short, tight little rock songs. And we saw 2 or 3, and we came back, and Further was still in the same jam. You know what I'm saying?
Playing in the band, still going.
It was like not fade away, just 10 minutes later, or 20 minutes later.
You didn't miss a thing.
Yeah, so I was able to see both. It was great.
That's awesome.
But it's so when I was over in California, I would try to catch shows. Sometimes I was there in the summers, and they would have Jerry Garcia's birthday celebrations and stuff like that. Yeah. There's a lot of respect for the Grateful Dead. Of course, there's people who beat up on them and just never got it. But I think in general, I find that if you talk to someone who knows his music, they might not like them, but everyone says, okay, there was something special there. And Garcia, everyone says, yeah, that guy was a kick-ass guitarist. No doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt. He was able, it's like what Bob Dylan said at his eulogy, right? When he died, he said something to the extent of, he was able to bridge like the Carter family folklore all the way to Ornette Coleman or something like that. I can't remember the exact quote. And it's true. Lots of space there.
Sure.
And so...
So, like you said, I do like to wrap up here with like recommendations and things like that. So, what's something good that you've read or seen, or a movie or a brand new band or something, album? What's something that impressed you recently that you could pass on to the listeners?
I already mentioned Groundation. I think they're really good jazz band, and they have, reggae band, but they have jazz stuff in there. Do you know them? Do you know the Groundation?
I don't, but I wrote them down as well.
I almost envy you for the first. Do you like reggae music?
I do, yeah, very much so. Yes.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I'm kind of envious for you to discover it for the first time. He does his voice a little bit like Isra Vibration, so that gets maybe a little bit getting used to. But it's really tight, really good reggae. And the album I would recommend there is Hebron Gate.
Okay.
And they just last year they had a remix of Hebron Gate with this drum and bass DJ. And it's just really good because it still grooves. Mm-hmm. It's not all torn up and all remixed. You know, it's still, you can play it as an album. So in music, Woven Hand, I'm pretty loyal to. I like some of the alt country stuff. I like Jason Isbell a lot. I love that guy. Has got something. His voice and his songwriting, very honest tales. Like when you listen to the lyrics. Yeah,
Michael
cool.
Leube, thank you for being on the show. I really appreciate everything you've said today, and it's been entertaining and enlightening and a lot of fun for sure.
Thank you. Lots of fun. I got a huge smile on my face. Those of you who are just listening, it just feels good to talk to someone who just knows what I'm talking about. Right. And I think the audience does as well. The Grateful Dead just touched us really hard, all of us. So thanks so much for inviting me. Very cool.
For sure. All right. Thank you.
All right. Take it easy.
Hey now, do you have a great story about a Grateful Dead show you were at? I'd love to hear it and maybe have you on the podcast. Send me an email at will@talesfromthelot.org and let me know what show you would like to talk about and what made it so special to you.